What is up? We are back. It is Monday, June 16th, and we are here with the MLB DFS breakdown for today's slate. Looks like a fun one, lots of different ways to go, so we will have some fun. Before we get into it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to all our videos. It helps us out a ton to keep giving away stuff for free. Also, if you should probably just come join us at LineStar. It is only $29.99. Gets you access to all of our DFS, all of our props. It is the best deal around. And if you want to try it free, you can download it and get a free trial from either of the app stores, the Android or the Apple iOS store. So both of them will work, and both of them you can get that little test trial if you are a new customer. And let's get into it. What we're going to go through today is first a little rundown of Sunday's main slate, just a quick rewind on how those contests went, and then we're going to get into the ownership for pitchers and some of the details about the pitchers, and then good old stacks. All right, guys, let's have some fun and let's get into it. All right, so let's head over to the perfect lineups. And now, if you are not familiar with LineStar and you are not a customer and you want to try out some stuff, all of the past stuff to go review other slates is available for free for you guys to try out. So that is another way to kind of try us out and look at the stuff we have. All right. Now, yesterday's DraftKings perfect lineup, Kikuchi and Yuri Perez coming in. Two mid-price pitchers, both put up over 30, so real solid scores. And then we got a nice Blue Jays stack here. So I love it when stacks are coming up in the perfect lineup, because it pretty much means you had to have that team. And as you guys all know, I preach making sure you have solid stacks. So that is a good one. The winning lineup had Glasnow and Kikuchi, so he paid up a little bit more than you would have had to for Yuri Perez, but not much. And this score was very different. Five, or not very much different. Only 5 points more for Perez over Glasnow. And then we got a 5-man Toronto stack and a 2-man Phillies with Luis Robert in there. So pretty solid lineup. You could Utica, took it. If you are familiar with DFS, you definitely know Utica. But as we've talked about a little bit here, we talk about lineup structure a lot. And look, the best guys in the game are all doing 5-2-1 or 5-3 type stacks, or 5 and 3 one-offs. So you should probably make sure you're doing that as well. Now, let's check out the FanDuel lineup here. FanDuel perfect lineup here. We got Yuri Perez coming in, 10.1K over on FanDuel, still making it. The solid game here. And 2-man Blue Jays stack, nothing else. No other stacks, which is a little interesting. Happens a little more on FanDuel because some of the salaries are a little softer. And Kikuchi for the winning lineup, which he was much cheaper than Yuri Perez, so he allowed you to get some better bats. And we still have a 3-man Toronto stack here, and then a 2-man Atlanta stack. So pretty interesting stuff there. Rios got him a 0, and he was still able to take it. So he got the right guys, that is for sure. Nice little lineup for losing it all that apparently is not losing it all. Now let's get into today's slate. So it is a 6-game slate. And we do have a little bit of weather issue for the Mets game. Pay attention to what's going on there. This one could be a PPD, but we probably won't know until right before the slate is going to start. What is going on here is there are storms that look like they will be around the ballpark at the start of the game, but later there is another round of storms that come. So if they have to late start, there's a very good chance the game does not finish. Again, I'm not going to take them out of, this. We're still going to talk about all those players. Just understand that you do need to look at the weather here for that. There's also possibly some weather in this Baltimore-Cincinnati game, but it looks like that's going to be all fine. So let's just jump into ownership now and get into the fun here. So I'll move myself out of the way here. And coming in first, we got good old Spencer Strider, almost 42% owned. To be honest, I think he's going to be much higher than this because there are some cheaper price pitchers we can come in as well. And he is just by far and away the best pitcher on the slate with the biggest upside. Minnesota versus righties, striking out at 28.7%. I think this is a spot that you probably want to take advantage of. Now, can he bust? Absolutely. He hasn't been that great lately, but with that, he's still been striking out. His strikeout line right now is at 9.5. I've already bet the over. I think that it is very likely he is 9+ strikeouts today. He has a 40% K rate. They strike out 28%. 33.5 combined K rate. Strider's in a great spot. Next, we got Andrew Heaney. Only 8K. He 27% K rate over his last 20, but it's down to 22 over the last 5. So that is a little concerning here. However, Detroit does strike out 23.5% versus lefties. Now, Detroit is better versus lefties than versus righties. So that's another thing that is, a little bummer about Heaney here, along with him being higher owned. Detroit has a decent ISO versus lefties, and Heaney isn't great when he's at home. He is actually better away. Very weird, very surprising here because it's not Colorado. Combined K rate only like 20%. Don't love Heaney. Ownership is there. It is against Detroit, though, so I understand why people are going there. Dylan Cease versus the Angels. Look, I've been talking about Cease the last few times he started. He seems to have figured it out again. His K rate is back up to where we expect it to be around. He is a solid pitcher. The Angels strike out 27% versus righties. So we have some real nice K upside here for a very cheap price. Combined K rate 29.8. His salary is only 7.7K. It does make some sense going with Cease a little bit here. Now the Angels, look, they can hit 2.01 ISO or 0.201 ISO, 0.324 WOBA. Angels are a good offense, but we know they can put up goose eggs. And they also were just in Colorado, so there could be a little bit of that Colorado Coors hangover that gets talked about a lot. I don't mind going Cease here. And 32%, so he's still pretty high owned. The one thing with this ownership, I actually expect Strider to be higher. It is pretty much doesn't happen that we go over 42% projected ownership, but I think this is one time that we probably should allow that algo to go up to 50, 60%, because that's what I would expect him to be. All right, Luis Castillo, 11K. I think it's a bit expensive for him in a matchup that he's probably not going to get a ton of Ks. He's going to get enough, which will be just fine. However, I just don't know if that total upside is here. Now, he is going to work deep into this game. He'll probably work into the 7th inning. And he's a very good pitcher. So there's going to be some Ks. Plus, he's averaging 63% more fantasy points at home. So I like Castillo. I like that he's a little bit of lower owned. 11K is just hard for me to get it there when he only has a 22.8% combined K rate. Justin Verlander. Man, what to make of Verlander? I personally do not think he's washed. A lot of people do. Look, he has a FIP of 3.74 over the last 5. ERA is 5.33. It just shows that he's had some really bad luck here. Now, his K rate has been very suppressed, but his last 5, Colorado, Toronto, at Atlanta, New York, at Houston. Not exactly the easiest places to pitch. So I'm going to take his 5-game data with a grain of salt here. I see the 3.74. I think he's a decent pitcher. And at 8.3K, I'm absolutely willing to take some swings, especially when Milwaukee strikes out 23.6%. Verlander's K rate over the last 20 is 26.7. Combined K rate of 24% at 8,300. I am very interested. The one thing here, we talked about it in the slate overview, there is weather, so we need to pay attention to the weather before we take Verlander. Reed Detmers is next against the White Sox. Detmers is better at home, 36.6% more fantasy points at home. White Sox aren't that bad of a lineup. They do have some names there. Detmers has been really good, though. 2.98 over his last 5. It's about the same as his last 20 FIP, so it's not a terrible spot. He strikes out some guys. Combined K rate of 24.1%. I don't mind going to Detmers. This is one slate that I absolutely think you could go to middle price pitchers instead of paying for Strider. And just hope Strider doesn't work into, say, the 7th inning having 10 plus Ks, because that is absolutely possible on this slate here. So all right, let's get over to FanDuel. Don't really love the low pitchers here. So now FanDuel, Strider 42%. He's only 11.3K here. I would be shocked if he's not 60% owned in FanDuel, which makes anybody else low owned. Now, Cease 9,600, so up quite a bit, but I think you could still pay for it if you want to get real different. Look, he is probably the only guy on this slate that might be able to put up 10 plus strikeouts. So I wouldn't totally discount him just because of that, but he's only 1.5K less than Strider, and Strider is much more of a sure thing, thus ownership going to Strider. And, I mean, that pretty much does it here. Verlander's 23%. He's super cheap on FanDuel, so I absolutely get that. I talked about it. I don't think he is washed. You can go there. Castillo's in a solid spot, going to work deep, limited K upside. And we talked about Detmers looking solid also. Outside of Cease, I'm probably sticking to one of those 4. Now, let's get into some stacks. Let's have some fun. See what batters are going to go nuts today. All right. So, highest owned, we got Mets going against Colin Ray. Ray's just not a great pitcher. 5.12 FIP over his last 20, 4.3 over his last 5, so he's been a little bit better lately, but I absolutely understand why people are going to the Mets here. Once again, pay attention to weather here because there could be some issues, but if rain does not make this game postponed or delayed, I think the hitters make sense in this game. Weather is going to support hitting. Wind's blowing out a little bit. And then we got Baltimore. Wind is definitely blowing out in Baltimore, and it is warm. Very good hitting weather. It is in that Baltimore stadium, though, with the fences pushed back, isn't allowing quite as many home runs. But it is a great matchup for the Orioles. 5.72 FIP over his last 5, 5.74 over the last 20. I really like the Orioles here. You could also go with the Reds here. Reds have been hot lately. They've been hitting. And Cole Irvin's not exactly a great pitcher. He also has been limited when he has started. His last start, he only went 68 pitches. Before that start and this one, he went into the bullpen, made a bullpen appearance. So I don't know how long he's going to go, and then you might get into that Baltimore bullpen. However, that Baltimore bullpen is very good, and they have a couple guys that are just absolutely dominant. Next, Mariners, Trevor Williams, 5.34 FIP over his last 5, 4.83 over the last 20. You can absolutely go to the Mariners. This is a pretty cheap stack too, which is real nice, allowing you to pay up for some of those bats. Rangers are stepping in. I really do like the Rangers today, especially the righties versus Matt Boyd. Matt Boyd is a lefty here, and he gets rocked by righties compared to lefties. I think his opponent, Babbitt, is dramatically different on lefties versus righties. So I do not mind Texas, and I especially like the righties in their lineup. Now let's go to our highest projected here. And now our highest projected, we got Cincinnati. The algo is liking Cincinnati. I think there's a lot of good reason for that, as we talked about. We also have the Angels popping up. The Angels are an interesting one. You know, as a team, they just came back from Coors. You don't really know what's going to go. One thing, though, is they are a very expensive stack. If you're stacking them, you really want Trout and Ohtani, or at least one of them, and everybody else is going to be kind of expensive in that lineup. So they're low owned, but it will be hard to use the Angels, get their two studs, and say Strider. You know, I don't love the Angels lineup, but extremely low owned, so it makes some sense. As far as a game theory wise, though, going low with a low owned, say Minnesota, makes more sense versus Strider than it does trying to go against Cease, just because Strider is going to be so high owned. If he gets blown up and Minnesota does it, then you're going to be at the top of the leaderboard. But it's unlikely. Strider doesn't go blown up often. All right, now we got the Braves coming in versus Sonny Gray. Look, Sonny Gray is a really good pitcher, but he has not been working very deep into games. So, you know, I don't hate going to this Braves team that, look, it's like high 80s in Atlanta and the wind blowing out. So I think they could do a lot of damage, and they're pretty low owned, so it's very interesting to me. Cincinnati is next. We talked about them already a little bit. Texas, talked about them, like those. And now let's go to the value guys. With Strider on the mound, we may need some value. We got White Sox versus Detmers. Makes some sense here. They're cheap. They can absolutely hit. Got Tigers versus Heaney. Also very interesting. Heaney, 5.09 FIP over his last 5. 4.5 over the last 20. And he's not as good as at home, so I don't mind kind of going Detroit, and Detroit is better versus lefties. So it's interesting. We got Washington versus Castillo. I don't love it, but, I mean, you could do it. Definitely could do it. All right, now ceiling-wise, we got the Braves all over this. Braves, Atlanta, Cincy. Makes a lot of sense there. So that will kind of do it for us today. Just click through the FIPS and make sure we don't see anything. That'll do it for us today. I think there's a lot of different ways you can go. I like this first game, the Cincinnati versus Baltimore one. Milwaukee versus the Mets is kind of interesting. Pay attention to weather. Really like the Braves stack today. Just understand. You know, they are going against a good pitcher. Just need to get him out. Super good hitting weather in this game. So if one of these offenses is able to start getting it together, they might break the slate. Texas, definitely interesting. Detroit, nice little maybe small stack with righties versus Heaney. Interesting game here, and Seattle's always in play as a stack. So that will do it for us today. Talk to you guys soon. We'll be back tomorrow. Good luck tonight. Let's win some money. Bye.